FTP,
30-minute time trial,
4DP,
CSS,
critical power.
There are so many fitness tests to choose from, all claiming to be the best measurements of your fitness. But what are they and which ones are best for triathlon? Well, before we divulge, we would love it if you guys could give this video a like, and if you want to support the channel, why not click on the globe and subscribe?
Well, as we are triathletes, let's start with the swim. Don't worry, we'll get to the biking and running very shortly, but the swimming is often overlooked when it comes to fitness tests, which is kind of odd considering we love to crunch the numbers and data on biking and running, so why not swimming too? An interesting thing with swimming is we do often refer to test sets or tests within swimming where we may do a set and replicate that time and time again just to see how we compare against ourselves. But what we're specifically looking at today is fitness tests. A test that is going to give us numbers that we can then go forwards with in our training, perhaps even training zones. So talking of which, let's start off with the Critical Swim Speed Test, or CSS for short. So to perform this, you obviously want to give yourself a good warm-up. Then the test set itself is simply a 400-meter all-out time trial effort. Make sure you record your time, then have 5 to 10 minutes of recovery, which you can obviously use to swim. Then the second half of the test is a 200-meter all-out time trial effort. Again, making sure to record your time.
So in order to calculate it, you simply need your 400 and your 200 meter time, and you subtract your 200 meter time from that 400 time and then divide that by 2, and this will give you your CSS, which is a pace per 100 meters. Or you can simply put the two numbers into an online calculator and it will give you your CSS that way. And this is a predicted pace that you'll be able to hold for a 1500 meter all-out time trial. So let's take an example. Say you did your 400 meters in a 6:05, you did your 200 in a 2:59. Well, subtract the 200 from the 400, then you're given a 3:06 with that, and you simply divide it by 2, and your CSS time would be a 1:33. And this number is really useful, and you'll actually see tests or sessions often guided by the CSS score, and it's loosely around your threshold, so it kind of comes under that same number. If the coach tells you to do a threshold pace, you know from that. So for example, you could do 2100s at CSS pace, and that would be with a 10 to 15 seconds rest. And some coaches will use the CSS number in a lot of sessions, and they might say CSS pace plus 4 seconds, for example. So it's just a really good guide.
Oh, that was a big one. And now let's get on with the bike, because we've got a few to cover here. Firstly, we've got the FTP test, the Functional Threshold Power Test. For this, you need to do a 20-minute best effort ride, then take 95% of your average power for the 20 minutes. This is a rough estimation of your best effort for 60 minutes without actually having to ride flat out for 60 minutes. And that number is also your FTP. Now, the reason it's calculated to 60 minutes is because this is often regarded as your threshold, roughly. Now, there are many arguments for and against the FTP test, but in my opinion, it's a very easy test to do. And for that, a very easy test to re-replicate and retest on. It's even actually built into Zwift. So whilst it may not be the most scientific or the most technical or even perfectly accurate, it's going to get you in the right ballpark. But as I said, there are a couple of other very popular tests, like the Critical Power Test. Well, critical power, or CP for short, is estimated from several, ideally 3 to 5 maximal efforts between 2 and 15 minutes. As a result, it's typically regarded as a more informative test and gives you a personal power curve. You take your average power from each of those tests and you can plug them into an online calculator for ease, and that's going to churn out a bigger picture of your overall fitness, including things like your critical power and your W prime. Well, this is probably worth a video in itself, but critical power is the power output that will tend towards over higher intensities, such as a 30 to 40 minute effort. So not too dissimilar to FTP, and similarly with critical power, the higher your critical power, the higher your power output will be over long cycling endurance events, such as triathlon. Whereas W prime is the amount of work that you can expend above critical power before complete exhaustion. Now, this is obviously leaning more towards those shorter, high intensity events and even just those short bursts of power when they're needed. And now our final test for the biking is the 4DP test. The 4-dimensional power test, which you'll actually be able to find within the Wahoo system. This uses 4 key performance metrics: neuromuscular power, maximal aerobic power, functional threshold power, and anaerobic capacity. You have a couple of very short sprints, short recovery, then into a 5-minute best effort, short recovery, 20-minute best effort, another short recovery, then a 1-minute best effort. Yep, it is a lot, but they do believe it's the most comprehensive fitness test for the bike. And fortunately, you don't need to do all the number crunching afterwards because they'll do that after. I mean, who does want to do number crunching after 4 maximal tests?
And finally, the run. And there's only really one best test for this, and it can easily be done from home. That is the 30-minute best effort. The important detail here is that it needs to be done solo. The reason for this is because when you run with others in a race setting, you'll naturally push yourself harder. This solo test should reflect what you might be able to do when pushed to a 60-minute competitive race situation. So head out and find a relatively flat route for your 30-minute best effort, and you want to then record your heart rate and the distance that you travel and pace as well if you've got it on your watch. If not, you can work it out afterwards because you know how long you're running for. And when it comes to analysing the data, it's your heart rate that you'll be interested in, and you want to take your average heart rate. However, if it takes a little while to get up to more of a plateau, then look at maybe taking the average of the last 20 minutes to give you more of an accurate idea. Well, that is a summary of the most popular fitness tests. Let us know if you've tried any of those and which ones you prefer. You can do that in the comment section below. Hopefully you enjoyed it.